Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. Much has already been written and spoken about the global environmental challenges we face today. The destruction of tropical rainforests, the changing climate and the extinction of species. But what underlies all this is the challenge of sustaining the lives of millions in tomorrow's world with resources that are limited. This week, our program takes a look at the danger of destroying scarce resources through unplanned development and at alternate sustainable technologies. This is what we have. We report on the coal fires in Jharia, which have been raging continuously for 50 years, assess the pollution that is destroying the Yamuna, examine the benefits of solar technology, and reveal how saving tropical rainforests in South America can be a profitable venture. But we begin with Jharia in Bihar, where underground coal fires have been raging incessantly for decades, destroying millions of tons of coal, laying waste large areas of agricultural land, and making living difficult for thousands of people. But how did these fires start? Isn't there some way of putting them out? And what are their long-term environmental consequences? Priya Somaya spent 10 days in Jharia to find out.
At night, huge crevices in the earth glow red. Cracks are illuminated by blue flames and breathe out hot gases from underground. The land surface often touches unbearable temperatures of over 600 degrees Celsius. People here call it the Devil's Kitchen. For over 75 years, fires have been blazing in underground coal fields in Jharia in eastern Bihar, raging near and under villages and destroying the land. The first officially recorded fire started in 1916. Today there are 65 fires ablaze, and a reality that over 300,000 people of this area have to live with. This fire below the town of Karkend started in 1959. Since then, it has raged continuously. The villagers remain mere bystanders, and noxious gases make breathing difficult.
हम लोग यहाँ 50-60 साल से रह रहे हैं। सन 59 से आग लगा है। हम लोग गैस में रहते हैं, धुआं निकल रहा है, इससे हम लोग को हानिकार होता है। हम लोग बहुत तकलीफ में रहते हैं, खांसी होता है, घर में रहने नहीं सकते हैं।
But what has caused these fires that began long before the nationalization of the coal industry? An era of unscientific mining by private owners, especially during the two world wars, was largely responsible for their start and spread. More holes, more coal may have made commercial sense, but it also resulted in large coal areas left well ventilated with oxygen, and given the combustible nature of coal, fires began easily. Not only did they prove difficult to put out, but they also developed a life of their own, moving along cracks and fissures sustained by virtually limitless amounts of coking coal. Coking coal is the purest and most precious of all the varieties, and proves almost disastrously combustible.
We're standing here in an underground mine at a depth of 150 meters. Barely 200 meters away, a fire is raging in an upper seam. Though it's not likely to reach this particular mine, several million tons of coal lies blocked due to the fires.
In fact, Over 37 million tons of coal has already been consumed by the fires. What is more serious is that the fires, which continue unabated, simmer through more than 2,000 tons of coal a day. Added to this, about 2 billion tons cannot be mined as they have been blocked off by the fires. Sendra Bansjora mine near Dhanda is an example.
In this Sendra Bansjora colliery, there are 4 seam, upper seam which is under fire, and nearly 158 hectare area is under fire. Nearly 16 million tons of the coal is locked up below fire, and other part we are working. There is a Ekrajor nearby. If the fire will propagate, it will go below the Ekrajor, and the whole river may go inside the seam, and the other part of mine will submerge, and this will be a loss of the property to the whole mine. And that is one of the greatest danger with this fire. Though we are taking all the precaution to control the fire, but still it is going on.
Although mining companies are incurring heavy losses as millions of tons of coal are turned to ash every day, they cannot afford the expensive technology that makes it possible to extinguish them and mine the coal.
Basic constraint is there are too many fires. When you use too many fires, you need a lot of money. So naturally you need more resources first. Then you need the technology for dealing with difficult fires.
Coal fires are one of the most difficult blazes to put out. Since 1972, when firefighting was initiated, only 5 have been extinguished, costing coal companies over 70 crores of rupees. The most effective but expensive method is to dig out the fire. Fighting fire with gas, water and sand is also being carried out, but with less success.
A fire is almost like a hydra-headed monster, and if you quench it at one place by direct attack with water, we have even tried liquid nitrogen in some places, or we dig it out, but then it comes out in another place. And coal seam being a combustible substance, the fire can spread slowly, insidiously, inexorably, for a very large spread. So fighting a fire is not easy unless you dig it out, actually.
The problem is particularly acute in Jharia. In the United States, for example, there are over 100 active underground coal fires, but they are of a much smaller size and are isolated from population centers. In contrast, there are over 200,000 people living amid fires in Jharia, and here most are surface fires as coal seams are not very deep. As cracks open up, a high concentration of carbon monoxide and oxides of sulfur are continuously let out in the atmosphere. The levels are much higher than can be safely prescribed, and the fumes linger heavily in the air. Spreading fires have left large areas completely burnt and have eliminated the alluvial soil cover. Nothing can grow on what were once agricultural fields. It is evident that the long-term effects on the land will make it impossible to cultivate.
The mouth of those cracks, yellow deposits are in respect of sulfur, crystalline sulfur, and those are white deposits are in respect of salts, which push up the soil salinity to very high levels as to be critical and hostile to the growth of plants.
Added to this, salinity increases the conductivity of the soil, further increasing ground temperatures. So even after the fire burns out, the land is rendered useless. Studies predict that even if a fire is sealed off completely, it will take several years to cool. Over 17 square kilometers lie wasted in this area. Yet, despite this, villages continue to live on the very brink of the craters. The fire reached under Sukhdev Pandey's house in 1991. With nowhere else to go, he and his family are forced to live with the strong stench of sulfur and carbon monoxide. They dread the summer months when their home is reduced to a virtual furnace.
देखिए कि खड़े हम कितना ढा लग रहा है कि हम कितना ढा लग रहा है घर में उसमें तक हम लोग खाना पकाते हैं घर में सोते हैं क्या करें कहाँ जाए लाचार बस गर्मी तो पूरा बर्दाश्त होता है एकदम। बाहर में रहते खड़ा गछाते से रहते, क्या करें, गछाते बिछा के लड़का बच्चा सोचता है गछाते घर में रहना पड़ता है। तो घर में जगह में कैसे क्या लगा, अभी तो दीपा लगता है तो गर्मी तो और बर्दाश्त नहीं होता गर्मी में।
और ये जो धुआं उठ रहा है उसके वजह से क्या तकलीफ होती है?
तकलीफ होता है मैंने पूरा गैस जाने से बीमारी फैलेगा, बीमारी फैल जाएगा, आदमी मरेगा और क्या, मरने का उपाय है।
But what threatens villages more than the fumes is subsidence. Once the coal below burns out, a hollow is created and the surface sinks in, taking with it homes, buildings and roads. Sometimes when fires reach underground constructions like water reservoirs, they pose an added threat.
आज से साल भर पहले 6 महीना पहले कुछ दूर यहाँ से 1 किलोमीटर दूर में था। वो धीरे धीरे बढ़ते बढ़ते यहाँ तक आज फिलहाल जो अभी देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर है। यहाँ से 200 फीट के दूरी पर, लगभग 300 फीट के दूरी पर हम लोगों का टंकी है, रिजर्वायर, जहाँ से धनबाद, पूरा धनबाद डिस्ट्रिक्ट का पानी सप्लाई देते हैं। वह टंकी तक पहुँचने के बाद तो टंकी फट जाएगी, यहाँ की जनता पानी के लिए तरस कर मर जाएगी। तो कितना क्या हो सकता है तो आप भी अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं।
While attempts are being made to contain the fires, the vital task of rehabilitating the affected people does not seem a priority. Coal companies and the state government, jointly responsible for rehabilitation, are content with passing the buck and grossly underestimate the numbers affected.
In the last 8 years, only 2,500 families have been affected.
When you say affected, what exactly do you mean?
Their houses have come in the danger zone.
Okay, now how would you describe a danger zone?
It's just very close to fire, over the fire. Any danger to him or danger to his house or danger to his family, that's dangerous. People who are our employees, actually when we shift them, we look after them. Who are not our employees, who have no business to be there, if they are, it's state responsibility to look after them.
No, it is not merely a law and order problem. It is a problem of rehabilitating the displaced persons. So they are right, primarily this is the responsibility of the state government to rehabilitate people. But this rehabilitation process has to be financed by the concerned coal company. The state government is not supposed to finance this. So if they provide the compensation, if they provide the finance, then the state government has to do it.
हम जब से यहाँ से आए हैं 83 ईस्वी से हम झरिया में यहाँ रह रहे हैं, अब तक तो कुछ हम लोगों को दिखाई में तो नहीं आ रही है। नो BCCL, नो बिहार सरकार, नो सेंट्रल सरकार यहाँ की कोई व्यवस्था के लिए या कोई झांकी मारने के लिए यहाँ की जनता की व्यवस्था इतना ही किया है। यहाँ से 3 किलोमीटर दूर में दोबारी कोलियरी था जो धस गया, वहाँ की जो BCCL एम्प्लॉय था तो उसके लिए 10 ठो घर वहाँ बनवा दिया गया और रेस्ट जो एम्प्लॉय नहीं है वो वहीं पर मर रहा है।
Financial constraints have also resulted in ignoring the need for environmental rejuvenation. Reforestation is being carried out, but at a relatively insignificant rate. The area is so degraded that it has been identified as one of the highest stress spots. People living here might have become quite accustomed to the fumes and the burnt earth. But when yet another village is engulfed by the fire, it proves to be a reminder of the incessant pressure that man and nature face and which has gone unnoticed for so long.
Still to come, the degradation of the Yamuna, reviewing the benefits of solar technology, and how tropical rainforests can be saved. If proximity to the national capital is any indication, then the river Yamuna should be one of the cleanest in the country. But ironically, the reverse is true. For as Sunil Manoran discovered, it's a clean river that begins its journey through Delhi and gets progressively degraded. Here's his report. This man travels 15 kilometers every day to bathe in the relatively unpolluted waters of the Yamuna, 4 kilometers outside Delhi. Here, the presence of birds and ducks in large numbers are a testimony to the relatively unspoilt river that enters Delhi. For once the river passes through Delhi, receiving its sewage and industrial waste, it is transformed into a smelly greyish-black mass that barely moves.
आप यहाँ पे क्यों स्नान करने आते हैं?
ऐसा है कि यहाँ पर आते हैं हम तो शहर में जो ऑक्सीजन गंदी मिलती है वो यहाँ पर इतनी शुद्ध ऑक्सीजन है कि जिसको 101% प्योर घी कहा जाता है ना, वो हमको यहाँ मिलता है आके पानी के किनारे। यहाँ आते हैं ऐसा मालूम पड़ता है जैसे हम दिल्ली में नहीं, किसी जंगल में या किसी ऐसी जगह पे घूम रहे हैं कि जिसका आनंद ही अलग है, लुत्फ ही अलग है।
जो यमुना जी दिल्ली में जाते हैं वहाँ क्या हो रहा है?
वहाँ नीचे गंदे नाले इतने पड़ते हैं कि वहाँ तो नाम यमुना जी है, हम तो उसका नाला जी रखा हुआ है हमने तो।
आप पहले कहाँ पे नहाया करते थे?
पहले हम वजीराबाद में नहाया करते थे, वहाँ पे हमने बहुत अच्छा मंदिर भी बनवाया है। मंदिर बनवाने के बाद वहाँ पे लेकिन जल अब इतना गंदा हो चुका है, वहाँ पे नहाने के लिए जगह नहीं है, तो इसलिए अब हम वहाँ से 4 किलोमीटर दूर यहाँ सिर्फ नहाने के लिए आते हैं।
It is at Wazirabad that the Yamuna begins its 48-kilometer journey through the capital. A perceptible color change occurs when the river meets the Nazafgarh drain, which is the single largest polluter. In fact, there are 19 drains depositing over 100 tons of BOD daily.
BOD, which is actually biochemical oxygen demand, that is the oxygen which is consumed by the organic waste which are thrown directly into the river. Now, high BOD means less dissolved oxygen levels in the water, which ultimately results in the death of aquatic life.
What makes this even worse is that Delhi accounts for 55% of the total BOD deposited in the river, and of that, only 30% is treated to render it less damaging. In fact, the Wazirpur industrial area has about 3,000 polluting industries which are constantly dumping untreated effluents into the river. Mainly small-scale industries, they've displayed scant regard for waste treatment. As a result, over half the enterprises do not possess effluent treatment plants. Perhaps the most striking thing about the industrialists themselves is their disregard for environmental protection. For instance, even the sulfuric acid used in their factories flows directly into the river, adding yet another pollutant.
ये जो small scale industries है बड़े pollute कर रहे हैं, तो इसमें आपका क्या विचार है?
ये तो है इसका, इसमें क्या कह नहीं सकते कुछ, क्या कुछ प्रदूषण तो होगा इसमें, तो कोई नहीं।
तो आपके पास वाटर ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट है?
कैसा ट्रीटमेंट?
वाटर जो ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट होता है ना, वो आपके पास है आपकी इंडस्ट्री?
नहीं।
हाँ, यहाँ पे बहुत पोल्यूशन है, तो खास यहाँ पे जो स्टील की जो यहाँ पे पोल्यूशन है बहुत ही ज़्यादा है।
But it's not just industrial pollution that is the cause of concern. The presence of a large number of slums and dhobi colonies are taking a further toll.
This dhobi colony washes a substantial portion of Delhi's clothes in the polluted river, releasing large quantities of detergent into it.
जैसे आप कपड़े यहाँ पे धो रहे हैं, उससे और क्या गंदा हो रहा है पानी?
हमसे? हाँ। हमसे नहीं होता गंदा, ये तो गंदा ही है, तो गंदा क्या होगा पानी बताओ पहले? गंदा तो आता ही है, हमसे क्या गंदा होगा ये पानी कपड़ा धोने से?
ऐसा है जी, ये पानी गंदा नाली से आता है, उसमें से सारे बीजाणु रहता है, उसमें से कीड़ा होता है, उसमें यहाँ पे जितने झुग्गी वाले वास करता है, उसमें कपड़ा साफ करता है, ऐसा उसमें से कुछ बीजाणु उसमें पड़ता है.
Long-term consequences of environmental degradation apart, the vicious cycle begun by pollution is unending. Not only is the river now starved of oxygen, affecting its biotic life, but the presence of bacteria has reached worrying levels. For instance, the E. coli count used to assess the level of water purity reveals large quantities of suspended matter. The safe E. coli count is 5,000 per 100 milliliters. In the Yamuna, the count is 24 million per 100 milliliters of water. This means that people downstream are vulnerable to cholera, typhoid and gastroenteritis. This is borne out by the 1992 gastroenteritis epidemic, the worst in 40 years.
There have been a lot of epidemics downstream as well as within Delhi because of the pollution that is being caused to Yamuna. Like incidences of cholera and gastroenteritis are very common during summer and monsoon, and a lot of people who are staying in slum areas and who are staying in resettlement colonies, they get directly affected by this pollution.
But the tale of woe is far from complete. An independent study has stated that fish caught in the Yamuna and eaten by the Delhi population are contaminated. In these circumstances, the government has launched the Yamuna Action Plan, which is synonymous with Phase 2 of the Ganga Action Plan. By diverting drains carrying sewage into treatment plants and then redirecting them into the river, the risk of pollution will be reduced. In addition, attempts are being made to recycle material to run biogas plants. Living on the Edge contacted the Environment Ministry to see how the Yamuna Action Plan was doing. The Planning Commission has only recently cleared the project, and work to clean the Yamuna has just begun.
This is a Japanese funded program, and it will take 5 years to complete.
Do you think it will be really successful?
Yes, indeed, it will be successful, but there are certain limitations on this project. As you know, there is very heavy abstraction of water from river Yamuna, starting with Tajiwala, then Wazirabad, and then Okhla. So there is hardly any flow left in the main river, and that imposes some limitations on the degree of improvement that can be achieved through this plan. As a matter of fact, learning lessons from the implementation of Ganga Action Plan, we are now trying to see that number one, the schemes are more rigorously planned, based on our actual experience, not based on manuals prepared in the Western world, and also choice of technologies is will suit our socio-economic conditions.
Still to come, reviewing the benefits of solar technology and how tropical rainforests can be saved. One source of non-depleting, clean and efficient energy is the sun. In fact, it is an ideal alternative to many of the fuels we use today. Although solar energy is being used to power cookers, heat water and light street lamps, its use is still limited. Amitabh Shukla takes a closer look at solar technology to see what is hampering its widespread acceptance. Civilization's great changes have been accompanied by new ways of producing and consuming energy. Fire, which prehistoric man first used to cook, coal, which was the basis of the Industrial Revolution, and oil, which has made possible the economic growth in the 20th century. But as we prepare to enter the 21st century, there is a growing realization that many of our energy sources are non-renewable. Indeed, there is a search for energy sources that occur naturally, are environment-friendly, and essentially renewable. And solar energy remains one great source that is yet to be fully tapped. In India, solar energy is already being used in a variety of ways, from electricity generation to cooking. At this solar energy center at Gwal Pahadi in Haryana, products developed in laboratories and universities across the country are made suitable for practical use.
It acts as an interface between the R&D organizations, the government, the industry, and the user organizations.
Today, thousands of industrial and domestic systems, ranging from water heaters to cookers and lanterns, are in use. But in a country of 900 million people, it does not seem too much. Added to this is the widespread perception that spares to keep the systems running efficiently are not easily available. That is a perception that needs to be changed. For unless our population sees in the sun a source of cheap, clean and efficient energy, coupled with many other benefits, very little will be achieved.
It is renewable in nature. That means you are not depleting the resources of a country or of the globe overall. Number two, it is environmentally benign, eco-friendly. Number three, it is available everywhere.
Conservationists all over the world are discovering that if depleting resources are to be saved for future generations, safeguarding the environment has to be seen as a profitable venture and not merely as a utopian concept. The next story on the tropical rainforests in South America, which are in danger of disappearance because of over-exploitation, is a remarkable example of how it's possible to actually make a living by saving the land.
Living in the Earth's tropical forests are some of the world's great riches that every day are being lost to poverty. People desperate to survive have cut or burnt down half of the world's rainforests to sell wood or plant enough corn to get by, says Costa Rican conservationist Manuel Mamurez.
These people are, like in all Latin America, pressing to eat slowly what it is left of the natural forest.
US and Latin American environmentalists have come up with new ways to preserve the land and make a living doing it. These palm leaves are gathered in the forests of Guatemala. They are packed, shipped and sold to New York's finest flower shops. The sap from this chicle tree is sold as far away as Japan to make chewing gum. And these nuts from the forests of Ecuador are carved into ivory-like buttons and sold in clothing stores across North America.
says James Nation of Conservation International.
Any one of them isolated may seem like a mere drop in the bucket, but when you put those together, you realize that we're absolutely making progress.
The ultimate goal is to make local people feel that if rainforest goods are worth selling, then they will find that the rainforest itself is worth saving.